Hi folks, how are you doing? Let's see another interesting game, in fact the last one to finish in the second round of the 2014 Sinquefield Cup. This one was between Hikaru Nakamura, the greatest player of United States with white pieces, and the world champion Magnus Carlsen from Norway. Not a clash between really some rivals here, with some rivalry going on for some time, and just remember Hikaru hasn't been able to beat Carlsen even once in a classical game of chess. So would it be here the first time? Let us see what happened. Nakamura plays 1e4, e5, and we reach Spanish with bishop b5. And guess what? Once again, the world champion Carlsen innovating, going his own way right from the opening. This time he surprises almost everybody, playing the g6 move, really going his own path right from the very start of the opening. I mean, this is a move which was first favored by nobody else than William Steinitz, the first world champion of chess, official world champion of chess, and now the latter of world champions of chess, Magnus Carlsen, like imitating him. It was 130 years, kind of that time has passed since Steinitz liked to play this move. Now Carlsen repeats this g6 in Sinquefield Cup. Well, Nakamura just castles, bishop to g7, and c3, pretty typical and normal plan in the Spanish to try to put a pawn on d4, occupy the center with pawns, and have a very healthy and well-developed position. a6, bishop a4 was played, and now after d6, well, black is reinforcing his center, and after, for instance, d4, bishop to d7, I think this has transposed into some kind of Steinitz variation of the Spanish, not so uncommon anymore than that 3g6 move. And here, well, white has some plans, different plans. He can choose what he wants to do with the position, I guess. And Hikaru chose to take some space with d5, even if he gives up the bishop pair. Knight c2 e7, bishop takes, queen takes, and white plays c4. Now, who could guess this started as a Ruy Lopez? I mean, this really seems a kind of a King's Indian position, very, very similar to a King's Indian position. Some players to have defended this one as black include Short, Nigel Short from England, Spassky and Nepomniachtchi from Russia, so not so uncommon here. Knight to, well, it's black to moves first. h6, very natural looking in this position. It seems that he's stopping white pieces from jumping to g5, either the knight or the bishop. Now white goes knight to c3, and now very natural looking move for black without this f5 counter blasting to against white center. Black just cannot breathe. This is a very typical in the King's Indian, and really looking very natural in this position as well. Once again, white has options here what to do with the pawn structure, what to do with the position. So Nakamura chose to play knight to d2, defending the pawn, reinforcing the central pawn with this knight, and giving himself the possibility to play this pawn to f3, cementing his position. Well, thinking later what he wants to do. You might think he might want to play on the queen side, as he might have some advantage there. Knight f6 developing, and there it goes, f3. And well, according to that database, there is an old game in 1987, Sachs, with white pieces played this against Smyslov, the world champion, former world champion from Soviet Union, with black pieces. So here, black just castles short, and naturally looking b4, kind of a bayonet attack in the King's Indian, very dangerous weapon it was again in the hands of Vlad Kramnik. Now this is similar with b4, trying to get c5, trying to get strong pawns here on the queen side / center. Carlsen counterattacks into center with c6, and Nakamura takes there. After knight takes, well, you have a typical backward pawn here on d6, and a potentially good square for white on d5. Now this knight would be looking great there. But first b4 is under attack, so a3, and black is on time to put a nice centralized knight on d4, which is doing a great job here. Nakamura completes development, bishop to b2, rook ac8. Good idea to put a rook on open file, hitting the somehow vulnerable c4 pawn. And now knight to e2, trying to get rid of this annoying knight. Carlsen comes up here with an original and interesting idea, kind of foreseeing what's going to happen here. He improves his knight, going with it to the rim. And really what happens is what's very interesting. I guess this is a critical line. Knight takes, pawn takes. This pawn is defended by the bishop. And now Carlsen is sacrificing material here with e takes. He plays knight f4. This was his idea. And if white was to take the second pawn on g6, his idea could be similar to play like rook f6, take on g6, and have counterplay, counter chances against white king with the queen here, the knight attacking g2, the rook would be on the g file, etc. Really some interesting initiative for pawn here after taking on g6. So Nakamura didn't want to go for this. He wasn't in the mood for being under attack, so he just gives the pawn back, advancing it to f6, saying you just take it. Bishop takes, and well, not right now, but g3 was played right now. Knight h3 check, king g2, the knight goes back to g5, and now Nakamura plays queen to b1, attacking the weakness on the black king side, the pawn on g6. King h7, queen d3, improving his queen, blockading this passed pawn, controlling more squares. Bishop to e5, and really good looking pieces for black, really. The bishop, the knight, the queen, the rook on the open file. Okay, white has enough coverage for his king, the knight, the queen, the rook are defending king side, but otherwise black pieces really looking coordinated and well placed here. Centralized, some dangerous options for black if white wouldn't be careful enough. Rook a to e1 was played by Nakamura. When in this position, one must wonder about this move f4, which seems to be forking a couple of light pieces here, the knight and the bishop. But black has enough counterplay here with queen h3 check, and now really interesting to see how it makes a lot of difference where white is putting his king. Let's see first the bad move here, which is to put the king on g1 on the dark square. Difference is that black can take on f4. Now the pawn is pinned, cannot take because the queen is hanging on d3. And if white tries something like rook a e1, which is the recipe against this move, in the other variations we're gonna see, the difference is that the bishop comes to e3 with a check, with what seems to be a really great position for black here, very dangerous for white king. Well, what was the correct move here after queen h3 check? It was to put the king on h1. The difference being that now bishop takes is not that strong as rook a e1, and now bishop e3 is not a check. So little subtleties here, of course, with the help of my engine, but okay, this sometimes gets you some useful advices, like don't put your king on the wrong square, even it doesn't seem to be that clear here what at the first sight what is the wrong and the correct square for the king here. But anyway, this was the f4 move, the f4 possibility here for white. Nakamura didn't go for this. He played rook a to e1, and now Carlsen evaluated his position as not one to go for the victory, so he sacrifices the bishop on g3 to force the draw with queen h3 check. And after some repetitions here, the king and the queen went back and forth, dancing here on the king side. And after 32 moves, if I'm not mistaken, They agreed to a draw. Really not a bad game, interesting battle. Carlsen innovating from the opening once again, giving us really surprising everybody once again and getting away with it, having a comfortable draw against Hikaru Nakamura.